Hi, I'm Sarah Gonzalez. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Stu, what was the top story?
One of the first prominent Me Too celebrities is back on stage.
Okay, I'm shocked because I thought your top story was going to be Aaron Rodgers.
It's a big deal.
Huge contract.
Biggest one in NFL history. Yes. That one is incredible, and that the biggest Super Bowl champion team, the most anyone has ever spent on a quarterback was 14% of their payroll. This will put the Packers at over 20%.
Huge.
It's going to be rough.
Huge. All right, Jason, top story.
Hillary Clinton's emails, we still have not gotten to the bottom of the full extent of the damage. But I think we're getting closer, and we took another step towards that today.
Finally, we will learn what it means to be a Democrat and what it means not to be a Democrat from Alyssa Milano.
Oh, good. Finally.
Yeah.
There we go.
So
The
glad.
world has been clamoring for this.
Yes. All right, Stu.
Louis C.K. Appeared on stage. He was one of the, that first big group of Me Too people, and he came out and took responsibility for his actions and, left public life. He lost his, series that was being produced. He lost a movie that was about to come out. There's certainly heavy costs to it. What was interesting, I guess, about that case in particular was there didn't seem to be any evidence of him using sexual harassment to hurt someone's career or him doing something against anyone's will. And those two things kind of feel like they should be part of one of these accusations.
He was just guilty of kind of being a freak.
Yeah, because I just want to clarify. It's not even just against their will, but he literally asked for consent, right?
He asked for
consent.
consent.
And they gave him consent every time.
Yes, and so he was doing something to himself in their presence. For whatever reason, that was his thing. Who's the judge? But in fact, and to your point, Sarah, one of the people he asked said no and left. He didn't chase them out of the room. He didn't try to ruin their career. So really what we came down to is he was pretty creepy. He would ask to do these things. Yes,
polite creepy.
Apparently. And, sometimes they'd say yes. Sometimes they'd laugh at him and not leave, which is going to be kind of depressing.
So funny.
But, he left and people say, well, he shouldn't be allowed back in society. And it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, obviously he only knows the truth with these people, and you never know really what went down. But even the accusations, one of the accusations was from a woman at I think it was an agency or something, and she took a phone call from Louis C.K. And from her telling of the story, she believes that while she was on the phone with him, and him in another building somewhere, maybe another town, he was pleasuring himself on the phone with her. Now, at no point did he say he was measuring. At no point did she ask. I don't know if there were just long pauses in the conversation and that's when he out of breath.
Heavy breathing.
I mean, it's not to say that he didn't do it, but I don't know.
He could have been running on a treadmill while he was talking.
With Louis C.K., I really doubt it, but it's possible.
Can you imagine if that was it and you're like, come on, I was exercising.
One time I get on a treadmill and this is what happens. Exercise is dangerous. We're proving that. It just... there was never a point in which he was convicted of a crime. It doesn't even seem like he was accused of a crime. And yet his entire career gets destroyed, and it's just a weird way of doing business. So many people, I think it's like half of people have dated people that they work with in their life. It's like something like 16 or 17% of people have married people that they've met at work. This is a big part of humanity. The people you're around all the time, you wind up dating. It happens, as you might know, every once in a while.
a little bit about that.
Right? And so that's not that. There has to be some room for men and women, men and men, women and women, to do their little dance.
Two spirits and men.
Yeah, two spirits and asexuals,
non-gender fluid,
pansexuals,
right. Yes,
and
all of them.
Yeah, all of that. The point is that there has to be a little room for that because you never know. I mean, your first kiss with someone almost always is, holy crap, is she going to push me away? Or is she going to be into this? You don't usually say, excuse me, sign this form. It's for a first kiss form. It's not, there's not a lot of paperwork that's associated with it. Look, there's a lot of parts of the Me Too movement that have been really positive. A lot of really bad people look like they've been affected. But I feel like a lot of this stuff has gone down a road of just because he's a little freaky and is a little twisted. The idea that he would do something like that and you wouldn't just leave, that should be the reaction there. And their excuse for this was he's a prominent comedian and I was afraid he might ruin my career. Now, there's no evidence that he did ruin anyone's career. They were just afraid of it and therefore stayed through this. I don't know how you cover for that.
That says more about them than it does about him.
It certainly says you're prioritizing your career over that experience, right? Mm-hmm. And, look, there shouldn't be any negative effects, and it's bad if you think that someone might hurt your career over something like this. But if it didn't happen, I don't know what responsibility he's supposed to take for that. If he didn't go and ruin someone's career, how can he get in trouble for ruining someone's career? Just because I can't control how you feel. I can't control how your feelings. Feelings are something that happen inside of you. It's not something the outside world should be able to control, nor should you want them to control.
What's crazy is post Weinstein or Stein. I never know how to say that, but post him, everybody that has been charged with something or accused of something, whether they're guilty or even just been accused, they're instantly kind of thrown into that, in with him. So they're all of a sudden just like Weinstein, just like him. Yeah. I saw there's a website out there, and this is not satire. This is an actual legit website. They made a website, and it looks very slick. It almost looks like Netflix, but it's a search engine, and you can search for movies or TV shows or anything, any kind of entertainment, and instantly it'll pop. Like, say if you type in Top Gun. Well, then if you typed in Top Gun, it'll have this big red flash across it, and it'll say, nope, don't watch it. So-and-so was accused of, sexual assault, blah, blah, blah. It literally, I'll tweet out whatever website this is.
Couldn't they have just put up, here's the 4 movies that are clear?
You probably wouldn't find one. You probably would not find one because there were so many people on this list. It was insane.
Yeah. Don't search for Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
It's on there.
It is.
It is on there. Do you know this website I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. And because Donald Trump was in it.
There's the guy that
used apparently as well. And I think there would be a real service to the Me Too movement, and they're the only ones who can do this. They're the only ones with the credibility to do this, except for Asia Argento, who I don't think can do this anymore. But it's to say, hey, look. We have real serious problems, and let me give you the people who we were really serious at. We have lots of evidence that have done something really serious. There's a lot of other people who've been lumped into our group, and we want you to know they're not really there. Aziz Ansari is not really there. Glenn Thrush isn't really there. Louis C.K. is not really there. It would serve, I think, the movement better if they would say, here's a big red line between people who might be a little creepy or maybe had one bad experience with someone, but don't seem to be repeat offenders or have done something really terrible, and put them on the other side of the line from people like Harvey Weinstein. But I think that would help.
But also, shouldn't we have a bunch of different categories of what all currently falls under the Me Too movement that should not be there?
Yes.
I overheard you tell a dirty joke at work, #MeToo.
Yeah.
Versus gang rape.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Right.
How about a lot of different ones?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, saying that shirt looks nice on you, or whatever, shouldn't count as Me Too movement or even sexual harassment.
Right.
But a lot of them lump all of that in.
It may not be okay,
right.
but let's not put it together.
Yeah.
We need a whole other category.
So getting back to Louis C.K., it was his first appearance since all of that. Was he well received?
Very well received. Now again, it was I think Caroline's, it was a Comedy Cellar. The Comedy Cellar, Caroline's, 2 small clubs in New York that a lot of these big time comedians will just stop by and do sets out of nowhere. So that's what he did. No one knew he was going to be there. He just kind of came out, did a set, and left. And he was, standing ovation even before he started. He was supposedly very relaxed and got through it, didn't mention the scandal. I guess one person who was there called later and said, I wish I would have known he was there because I would have wanted to make the decision of whether I supported him or not. Instead, you're kind of just in the middle of it, which, I guess, okay. But with one person as your big problem, it's probably okay. I think people generally speaking, and I've heard this from, many women, honestly, more women than men, have made the distinction between, there's really, really terrible, terrible things. But I'm a woman, I understand how this stuff goes. I'm a person who's dealt with some things, and if you don't remove yourself from the situation, you could, have issues that you're not comfortable with. But it's up to you to remove yourself. And I feel like women get this rap in this whole situation of just not having agency. They have no control over their own lives. They can't say no because every man is going to ruin their career, and they're constantly making decisions of weighing their career versus some sexual experience they don't want. When in reality, women can remove themselves whenever they want from these situations, with the real exception of some of these really bad ones.
I mean, I understand Harvey having that much power. I mean, he was really influential. But Louis C.K. could destroy careers or could make careers.
Maybe, you could argue maybe at his his peak maybe a year or two ago. Maybe this was long before that in a lot of those situations.
They'd probably avoid peak. But I just want to be on record. If you have that kind of power, Louis C.K. or other, I'm willing to be subjected to that.
Oh, really?
If it benefits my career, yeah. Wow. Yes, absolutely. I want on record. I don't want any doubt. Yes. Yes, I need money.
Okay, Jason, Hillary Clinton.
So, ever since the revelation of the private email server came out, the big question in everybody's mind was it compromised? Did someone hack into it? And that's been the main question on everyone's mind. Well, we kind of got a little bit more of that. Slowly, the pieces has been starting to come together when Peter Strzok was being arraigned or was being questioned in front of Congress, and Louis Gohmert actually came out. Congressman Gohmert came out and just mentioned that we do know that a foreign nation, a hostile nation, did hack into her server, and he didn't actually name who it was. And he instantly, basically got no press coverage, hardly at all. I think Glenn was one of the only people actually talking about it at the time. But we were still speculating on who it might have been. And we actually said that what if it was China? We were thinking it probably was China. Not Russia, but probably China. Well, the Daily Caller, it was either today or yesterday, just came out with an article that said that they have sources that are confirming, yes, it was China. It was a private company that was basically a shell company, like a ghost company, that was actually Chinese intelligence, and they were in Washington, D.C. And what they did was, it's incredibly detailed, all the information they got, but what they did was they hacked into the server, they inserted code that made it to where every single message that she sent out over the server, which was basically every single email she sent while she was Secretary of State, added in a little courtesy copy, a little CC, and it was sent back to them, which they were sending back to China.
While she was Secretary of State, this was going on.
It said in this article, this is what the sources said, encompassed her entire time as Secretary of State. Okay, so to put that into context, you just want to figure out some of the things that was going on during that time. So from 2010 to 2012, we just found out, I think the New York Times was the first ones to report on this, that intelligence sources had confirmed that our intelligence network was completely dismantled in China. And the CIA was like, what the heck is going on? They thought that they actually had a mole somewhere in CIA. It was that bad. Over 20 of our assets, some of them like people we recruited, some actual CIA agents were either murdered or imprisoned in China. Set us back decades as far as our intelligence work in China. And they could not figure out what was going on. One of the cases was so bad, a CIA asset was walking out of a CIA, or was walking out of, I think, the U.S. Embassy, walking out of it, and he was shot in the head as he was walking down the stairs. It was that bad, that blatant. But anyway, so how do you think that happened? If they're literally, quite literally reading Hillary Clinton's emails, the Secretary of State's emails, you got to think that probably had maybe something to do with it. Either she could have sent an email that said, that named an asset, or talked about a program or whatever. That would have been all they would have needed to hone in on and start the dismantling of our intelligence network over there. I mean, it's just crazy. We still have not even gotten to the full extent of how bad this was. And still, we barely hear people talking about it. This was in the Daily Caller. You had to search for this article. No one's really talking about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't see that on CNN or MSNBC or any of those other media sources today.
No, they won't.
Shockingly.
They won't talk about it.
Okay, up next, we'll hear what Alyssa Milano says.
Right, thank you. You guys are taking up all this time.
Can't wait. And we'll also hear why it matters.
Yes, exactly, why it matters. Yes.
What does it mean to be a Democrat, according to Alyssa Milano?
Thank you. This is the story of the day, the top story.
Breaking news right here.
Yes, Alyssa Milano posted on her social media accounts, and it might have been Facebook as well, but I know it's Twitter, what it means to be a Democrat. And we have a picture, and she runs down. I think this is something she grabbed from somewhere else, or maybe she wrote it. I want to give her full credit if it is hers. But look at the top couple. Just because I'm a Democrat, it does not mean that I want to take away your guns, want open borders. I don't understand the plight of real Americans, and I want to live off government handouts. Now, do you think that's accurate from what you know of Democrats and leftists in general?
Absolutely not.
No.
Hold on. Specifically, Alyssa Milano.
Yes.
In reference to the guns.
So you're saying she does want to take away guns?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what would your proof be?
Her entire Twitter feed.
Exactly right. Now, if she doesn't, then explain it to us.
Right.
We all go back to right now, the gun issue's out there again. So what do you want? What are those common sense solutions that they keep saying? Most people will not offer any. And when they do, the best we get is things like universal background checks, which, what about Maryland? What about, that whole, we now know that the Jacksonville Landing murderer got his gun in Maryland with some of the strictest gun laws in America.
Yeah.
Again, what about that? What about this? She doesn't want open borders, apparently. Okay, you don't? Then what do you want?
Right.
You want amnesty? You want those illegals that are here to stay here? So you're saying nobody else can come. You want to secure that border while getting rid of ICE. How would you secure it to make sure it's not an open border? But then the people are here. They got an advantage that others won't have in the future. How insensitive of you. All of these things are lack of explanation. You're just throwing crap out there and not actually telling us how. So that's really apparently what it means to be a Democrat, I guess. But I want to point out, notice, I think it's line 4 about education. Stu, can you share that?
Yes.
Line 4, I want every child. Yeah.
Every child to have access to the best eduction.
Eduction. Can you help me out with that?
I don't know what eduction is.
Did you mean abduction?
I guess
is
it's
that what
abduction on the internet?
Abduction, something like that. It's one of these newfangled terms. It could have been education, but
What a
the irony is...
unfortunate typo.
And when you say every child,
Yes.
how many of these children actually make it past your hardcore left-wing abortion policy? Because they don't get any eduction at all.
They don't get eduction at all. I think what that also proves is that they didn't have good tutors on the set of Who's the Boss.
No, yeah, that's true.
But she does understand the plight of the average American.
Absolutely. She mentions that, and it's interesting. She said she does understand their plight, and I think it's the last line, I love my country enough to see beyond flag waving. Now, I can even give her the benefit of the doubt on these things. I get what they're saying. A lot of people on the right just glob onto the whole flag, and they wrap themselves in it when they really aren't concerned about, freedom and, standing up for people's rights. But does she really stand up for those things for me and others? And plight of real Americans, I know what she thinks a real American is, but does she understand what that factory worker in Iowa is going through today?
Clearly not.
No, I cannot stand the hypocrisy of Hollywood and people like Alyssa Milano. Because I've said before, I worked in that industry in Hollywood for the vast majority of these people. And they are the biggest hypocrites I've ever been around.
Why, did you have a gun with you? I don't understand.
Why, if you count, is that a gun? Yeah. Well, I guess, it is actually nowadays. Right, yeah. But they are the biggest hypocrites. And understanding the plight of Americans. No, you don't, because you wouldn't be you can't even say the word illegal immigrant. You got to say undocumented, as if that's even a thing. Of course they're advocating for open borders. It's ridiculous because they don't live in neighborhoods where that's actually going to affect the plight of the American, average American. They don't live in those areas. They don't live in areas where, vast, out of control, illegal immigration is destroying certain neighborhoods.
Southern California is certainly
not really in their communities.
They don't get by the fences around their communities.
They don't see that. It's like Hollywood is like a village, like where they live. They live in like Bel Air, Brentwood, the Hills, and they do not leave those areas.
There's never going to be any violence in Brentwood. It's so nice. What could possibly go down there?
Well, she said she doesn't want to live off of the government. No, of course she doesn't.
That'll never be an issue for you.
The ruling class. There's two classes with them, right?
It's interesting, too, how they always phrase these things in complete absolutes. It's like that we don't want open borders. Well, I guess they could probably make that argument. They want to stop terrorists on the way over, or they want to set up a border crossing and then let everyone through, except if they happen to be carrying a missile. I don't want to get rid of all your guns. Well, they don't want their personal security to lose their guns, so I guess it's not all of their guns. These are just ridiculous arguments. They do want to restrict regular people's access to these things, and it's transparent. I
also love I want every child to have the best, access to education and free of gun violence. I don't want kids to not be free of gun violence. Yeah. I want kids to have access to education,
so you want them to be educated and not murdered.
This is kind of, it's like a humanity thing, right? Not a Democrat thing.
Right.
Can you believe it?
Nuts. You're right, her Twitter feed's crazy. If not for her cookies, I would have nothing to do with her.
Wait, she makes cookies?
Yeah, Milanos. They're fantastic. Have you ever had them? They're like little ovals. Yeah, they're really good.
So tell us about the bees in Times Square.
We used to actually make T-shirts called that said "The Bees Know," and the theory was that the bees know the secrets of our society. There's something going on with the bees. They would kept landing on Barack Obama's face for a while. Do you remember that whole situation? You don't remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They used to have it all the time. He would just continue his speech, and they would just walk around and be like, flies and bees. It was very weird. Well, it's a little weird situation in New York as well, where this poor hot dog stand had this happening to them. This is, 20 zillion bees just for some reason just all congregated right on this one umbrella one day in New York. Now, this is not, oddly enough, the strangest thing I've ever seen in New York. There's plenty more than that.
Is he sucking them up?
Yes, this is the best part. Love it. Watch them. You just suck them.
Yep. My gosh.
Oh, God, it's so creepy. But I learned something yesterday. We talked a little bit yesterday about koala chlamydia. That 90% of koalas have chlamydia.
Yep.
Another fact I learned during
How do you know that?
I'm an educated man.
You're inducted.
Inducted.
I'm an educated man.
You're an inducted man. There are 200 million insects, not total, for every person on Earth. That is how many freaking insects live here, which is the creepiest thing I've ever heard in my life, and you'll never sleep again.
Okay, but hold on. Let me get my bearings. Okay. I was reading this article, and it was amazing to me that it said NYPD bee unit. They have a beekeeping unit.
They need a rat unit. Do they have a rat unit?
I know, right? I would think that's a priority over the bee unit in New York.
There's a poop patrol for San Francisco for crying out loud. We should have a bee unit.
Are bees that big of a problem in New York?
It's a government job. It's the bee unit with the BOA 3000. The bee suck-o-matic. Yeah, that's what he's... Of course.
So cool.
Put people on the payroll in New York.
Right, back in a minute.
There's a documentary called Bee Movie, where a lot of that takes place.
All right, only about a minute before we head on into overtime, but I wanted to tell you guys, in case you're thinking about visiting Myrtle Beach in South Carolina.
90% of the koalas have chlamydia.
It's amazing. You got to be careful if you use profanity, because apparently if you can get cited for using profanity, and you can face up to a $500 fine and or 30 days in jail.
F that.
At Myrtle Beach?
In Myrtle Beach.
You can't golf without swearing profusely.
Right? It says a person would violate the ordinance if he or she uses a language likely to provoke a violent reaction from another person.
Okay, that's not just swearing, then. That could be political.
Yeah, it's so subjective.
Excuse me, so I was saying that talking about Trump the other... Right?
Right. Yeah, I know. So I would stay away. I have to stay away from Myrtle Beach. I don't know about you guys. But we're headed into overtime next.